Thank you, Zartaj. Moving on, we have a message from the President of the World Economic Forum, Mr. Borge Brende. He has an experience of working in Norwegian public sector as Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Trade and Industry, and Minister of Environment. A very strong voice for protecting the environment. Please welcome Mr. Borge Brende.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister Khan, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor to address this high-level event hosted by Pakistan on the occasion of World Environment Day. As the world comes together for the launch of the UN Decade for Ecosystem Restoration, we must realize that we do this not to save the planet per se, but to save ourselves. Our economy is embedded in our society, which in turn is embedded within the biosphere. To live within the planetary boundaries, we must strive towards aligning our economic and social activities with the limits of the biosphere. The World Economic Forum's New Nature Economy reports identified that more than half the world's GDP is moderately or highly dependent on nature and hence exposed to risks of nature loss. We are losing more value than we produce. If we continue our current path, by 2025, an estimated 1.8 billion people will suffer absolute water scarcity, and 2/3 of the world will be living under water shortages. And by 2050, global crop yields are estimated to fall 10%, with some regions suffering up to a 50% reduction. As a result, world food prices are expected to rise by an estimated 30%. Business as usual is no longer an option. We must shift towards a net zero, nature positive, and socially equitable world. The time to act on it is now. The decisions we take today will bind us to a path for the coming years. And hence, adopting an action-oriented approach for the next decade is crucial for the protection, restoration, and sustainable management of our natural capital assets. Research shows that every dollar spent on key net zero and nature-positive activities, including ecosystem conservation and restoration, can generate up to $7 in the broader economy. But we need a system change that recognizes the value of natural capital and creates the right incentives for safeguarding it. The number of corporate commitments to reach net zero emissions has more than doubled over the past year. It is incredible. And over 70 governments have now pledged to restore 210 million hectares of land through the Bond Challenge, a global effort to restore the world's most degraded and deforested land. The World Economic Forum's 1T.org platform is helping to conserve, restore, and grow 1 trillion trees by 2030. Yesterday, the 1T.org Corporate Alliance launched a platform for companies to commit to forest conservation, restoration, and reforestation, act with integrity and transparency, and demonstrate leadership in support of the global restoration movement. To succeed, we must amplify the voices of youth, women, and local and indigenous communities at the front line of safeguarding nature. We must develop investment vehicles, policies, and education opportunities that meet their needs. And we must embrace and support their solutions for restoring nature through ambitious public-private partnerships. We need to better connect the grassroots with the grass tops of the world. This is why I'm thrilled that the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration is set to unleash a global ecopreneurship movement for a generation restoration. With our Uplink platform, the World Economic Forum is offering youth leaders and innovators of all ages an opportunity to share their best solutions for restoring nature and connecting them with investors, experts, and communities who can help them scale up. This decade, we all must work on improving investment, education, and capacity building for entrepreneurs who are at the front line of nature protection and restoration. As countries look to build back better and design post-pandemic recovery measures, let's remember that natural capital and ecosystem services underpin human health, economic growth, and societal resilience. I really applaud Pakistan's 10 billion tree tsunami that is restoring over 1 million hectares of degraded forests. Congratulations. Through its many nature-positive initiatives, Pakistan is showing that it is possible to combine the objectives of livelihoods, resilience, and ecological health. Thank you for walking the talk. Let us work together to ensure that this decade of ecosystem restoration puts us on a path to recovery, resetting humanity's relationship with nature, so that by 2030, we have arrived at a world that is net zero, nature positive, and sustainable.
Thank you, President of the World, for your message. Now we are privileged to have with us Inger Andersen. She is live with us. She has years and years of experience in the areas of agriculture, environmental management, biodiversity conservation, climate change, energy, water resources management, and hydro diplomacy. We also thank you, Inger, for you approaching Pakistan and giving us this great opportunity for hosting the World Environment Day 2021. Please put your hands together for the Executive Director at the UN Environment Program, Inger Andersen.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Faisal Javed. And if I may thank all of the people here, and of course to Prime Minister Imran Khan, to Minister Malik Aslam Khan, and to the Ministry of Climate Change for hosting this World Environment Day, the largest global platform for outreach on the environmental challenges of our time. World Environment Day 2021 marks the launch, as we have heard, of the United Nations Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, which aims to reverse the damage we have caused to nature. We must spare no effort to make this decade of ecosystem restoration a success, because we must stabilize the climate, we must protect nature, and we must stem pollution to create a world where the Sustainable Development Goals thrive. Restoring ecosystems is a remarkable solution. It slows climate change. It brings back lost biodiversity. It creates productive land for agriculture. It provides jobs, restores nature's buffers against zoonotic diseases and pandemics, and helps vulnerable communities adapt to the changing climate. But restoration alone won't solve all our problems. We must stop further ecosystem destruction. But how do we do this? By reforming agriculture, by changing how we build our cities, by decarbonizing our economies, and by moving to circular economic models. Restoration as a quick acting solution can buy us time to make these larger transformations. And that is why the Decade for Ecosystem Restoration aims to prevent, to halt, and to reverse the loss of ecosystems. Momentum is growing. We now have commitments to restore 1 billion hectares of land, about half of all that is degraded. And Pakistan is showing us the way. The Prime Minister recently planted the 1 billionth tree of the 10 billion tree tsunami. Bravo to all. I'm also very encouraged by a new and innovative program to swap debt for commitments to achieve conservation targets. And laudable is also the decision to halt the approval of new coal power plants and to pivot to renewables. As climate change is a key driver of desertification and ecosystem degradation, such a move is great news for nature. The task now for Pakistan and for all nations is to build on this momentum and deliver on all our commitments. But how do we get there? Well, allow me to put 4 points that should be on our priority list. First, we need to get the finance flowing. To meet the climate, biodiversity, and land degradation targets, financial flows to nature-based solutions must triple by 2030 and increase fourfold by 2050. So governments must allocate funds to restoration in the COVID-19 recovery packages that parliaments across the world are passing right now. Businesses, banks, investors, and insurers must reform their operations and their financial flows to restore the natural world. A key step is to start using the inclusive wealth measure of growth. Such an approach measures natural capital alongside human and produced capital. It allows us to make investment decisions that back sustainable growth and prosperity. For example, UNEP's recent inclusive wealth analysis of Pakistan's economy showed that the afforestation efforts underway are likely to increase natural capital and inclusive wealth. Pakistan's economy is growing in the right direction. Now, my second point is that we must protect those who manage the land in law and in deed. Research shows that lands managed by local communities suffer less degradation. To empower local communities, we must recognize the right to a healthy environment and back it with the full force of the law. And here Pakistan has taken strides with green benches in its Supreme Court and all provincial high courts across the country. And my third point is that it is time to make our cities green havens. As our world urbanizes, we need to make nature a fundamental part of our cities. There's much we can do: backing urban agriculture, expanding green spaces, integrating nature's infrastructure with our built infrastructure, green our gardens and streets. This will deliver enormous benefits to city life, including natural cooling, cleaner air, food security, and healthier people and happier kids. And my fourth point is, it's equally important to restore the blue planet. We have made huge commitments on land restoration, and we salute that. But our marine and coastal ecosystems are also in trouble, and we need to see a massive increase in restoration commitments globally on marine and coastal ecosystems with backing from donors. So friends, excellencies, if we work hard in these 4 areas to get finance flows in tune with nature, to protect those who manage the land, to make our cities green, and to restore the blue planet, we will heal nature. We will slow climate change. We will feed the world. We will protect vulnerable communities. We will reduce pandemic risks. And we will, in essence, make everybody's lives better. Thank you again to Pakistan for your efforts. I encourage Pakistan now to keep delivering on your ambitious commitments. And I encourage all other nations to follow Pakistan's leadership and make this decade a roaring success. Thank you.
Thank you, Inger Anderson, for being with us. आगे बढ़ते हैं, बलोचिस्तान से एक ज़बरदस्त बैंड तशरीफ़ लाया है. आपकी बड़ी मेहरबानी कादर चनाल ज़हरी साहब और आपकी जो टीम है